Hello, hello, people of the internet. It's your boy, Skinny Penis. And I bring you today another revival of another old series, like replay review, because it's a replay, so we can't really talk about it live, you know? I'm not gonna fake it. And we're going to have a look at San Martin. Had randomly a really good game, mostly because it's arms race, and it turned out to be the one out of, I don't know, 50 arms race games that is a blast, let's say, because both teams play half decent and lots of buffs are being collected, game goes late game. But it gives me the opportunity to have a nice replay and talk a bit about San Martin, essentially. So, when it came out, myself, including most other people, straight up said it's fucking horseshit useless. And, I mean, we were 50% wrong on that. It wasn't like a 50, but it was an opposite, being wrong angle than, for example, Napoli. Because when Napoli came out 2 years ago or so, I was also of the opinion it's useless. Then it turned out it's 50% only, because randoms is shit with Napoli. It's kind of the same with San Martin, but in competitive, it suddenly turned out to be suddenly viable. Difference is that Napoli would be generally always viable in competitive, because of the, let's say, controlled environment that you have there, and the different, let's say, interactions you have, where the armor, concealment, smoke gun, second, everything, like the entire kit, and because you get a good teammate with you, or multiple good teammates, it actually works out as the best flank cruiser, right? San Martin is kind of the same, not as bad though, like, we're a bit wrong. Problem with San Martin is, in randoms, you don't really do damage. You only deal damage if the enemy is completely brain damaged, and even then you have trouble, because you don't have the DPM of a minnow, neither do you have like the DPM of a Wooster. You don't have HE, but on top of all of this, you also don't have short fuse. It doesn't really help you to not have short fuse, because you're like, okay, sure, certain cruises you might Citadel at ranges where minnow wouldn't. It's very rare though. In general, the minnow AP is better because you can full pen destroyers, and San Martin can't do that. So even if a destroyer fucks up, certain destroyers you just don't deal damage. It's a big problem. And if, like, let's say cruisers or battleships start angling and they actually play half decent, like we're talking 50% and above, and they actually angle a bit, or fully nose in, suddenly you're completely useless. So the only thing you always brought is a bunch of gimmicks, right? Assuming you can ensure proccing your F key, you get a bunch of heals, you can tank a lot for a cruiser, so the battleship can one-shot you multiple times while he's angled and you do 0 damage. And so everyone thought it's kind of garbage. But since they are starting to limit a lot of ships in competitive, like a lot of ships, and in very strict ways, specifically also the super ultra cracked battleships, you have weird controlled environments on flanks where San Martin is a very good pick to keep your, let's say, restricted ship slot open for another one. Like currently, for example, you would rather take a Nevsky or a Petro and never a Napoli, because your Napoli wouldn't achieve anything on a flank because you have San Martin facing it. And the thing is, you don't have two battleships, which is actually very like what I mean by like controlled environment. Like it's very easy to understand what the enemy team could bring for ships, and it's also very easy to understand that there's only going to be one BB. So if you want to abuse the San Martin with a BB, let's say Loria can pretty much hardcore abuse it. You obviously lose control of 2/3 of the rest of the map, because your Loria is committed on a San Martin with 1 or 2 other ships to fuck it up. So since there's no 2 BBs, if you had 2 BBs, you could keep one battleship more for control or reactive, and the other one could just always abuse the San Martin, and the pick would be really useless. Because the moment you have a BB up your anus, you actually do die. But you don't die against cruisers, unless it's like an Annapolis that's smoked. Reason for that is not necessarily the Annapolis DPM, by the way. It's more that the San Martin doesn't get anything to shoot. And then you can't proc your F key because the enemy ship or cruiser is smoked. So yeah, there's ways to counter it. It's obviously not insanely broken. I would also obviously vouch for it not being banned out immediately. Same as I don't really like the turbo limit on Napoli, which is stupid because Napoli doesn't bring utility. So yeah, as I said, kind of a lot of people were wrong, especially in our team or clan, especially me. There is scenarios where this ship actually becomes viable in competitive play. The difference is it's still not good in randoms. Like, it's still a pain in the ass in randoms in lots of games. As I said, like, if the enemy team is brain damaged, you're good to go. You will get damage, you will get kills. You have a lot of utility. You have hydro, radar. You can actually, like, if you can ensure to permanently proc your F key, you do not only heal a lot, you also have permanent DCP, so you never take, like, module damages. Never take really fires. Because the F key also reduces the DCP cooldown, and you can obviously chain radar, chain heal, even chain hydro, though the hydro is very long duration anyways. Only a 3 km hydro I figured out, didn't even fucking know that. I played it with AA. Yeah, to be fair, like, you could also spec it full AA in randoms and go with a carrier, it's actually really good for that. But yeah, in randoms still like kind of questionable. And the main reason, not only that you don't deal damage, the problem is also in randoms you run against 4 to 5 BBs a lot, and that is really, really bad. Like, you can withstand maybe one battleship, and you can, like, that's the kind of gameplay that's difficult about San Martin. In order to play it properly, you need to make plays or get into positions or play off timings where you can always keep your F key procced, which is also the reason why it's so cancerous in competitive against, or in a cruiser 1v1. Maybe not cancerous, but like super weird. Neither cruiser kills, because both, let's say both San Martins or San Martin and Napoli, the Napoli will always, in order to deal damage to the San Martin, it is spotted, and the San Martin, while it doesn't kill the Napoli, it still gets the F key off over and over and over and over again. So theoretically the Napoli has to burn through like 160, 150k, 150k, 140k HP. It's like incredible, and you're obviously not gonna flap broadside. So the thing is also, you can kite permanently, and in order for them to kill you, you probably get a lot of F keys off, and you heal and heal, and you run and run and run. Next thing is, DDs can't really like free spot you, unless it's played really properly with a smoke, because you can just essentially stealth radar. There's 100 meters in between your detection and the radar, so you can probably keep the DD away and spot it for like a teammate of yours. Because you yourself, you won't deal damage to the to the DD obviously, because your AP won't do shit. So yeah, I mean, and if you get away, the thing is, if they don't finish you and you're in the corner, you can just go dark, turn it around, and then the second thing is, you're an insane suicider. Not that you suicide and kill someone, you kill them through spotting them, essentially. Like, you can run, for example, at a smoke Nevsky or something, assuming there's obviously like no Stalin or battleship deep in your broadside, very close. I mean, then you obviously pop. But let's say there's an opportunity to run at a smoke on a deep flank. The moment you get that cruiser spotted, you keep him lit. You just run into his hardlight, you radar him out if needed, and you just get your F key proc because you're running at him. You heal, you get the next F key, so you can just like forcefully run at them, and with the F keys and the great heal potential, you can just stay alive. So you probably won't kill them, you're just opening up another angle of AP, but you're not going to magically death strike people. But you're going to spot. You're suddenly going to spot ships that don't want to be spotted inside their smoke through essentially running in with your own life. And it becomes a way bigger pain in the ass for the enemy team to kill you in a San Martin, because you get your F keys, than it is for your team to kill that cruiser that smoke, because you're like having an AP angle, probably a battleship is shooting and another cruiser has an AP angle, or even HE, so you can just fuck them up. So yeah, it's an interesting ship. I like, honestly, the way competitive is limited, because it brings suddenly, it brings San Martin into a state where it's viable, but it's very, let's say, complicated gameplay. I even said that to our, like, what is it, like, teammates. Like, I personally would have to really play the ship a lot and think about it a bit more to really get it down to the fine details and understand what kind of cheesy shit you can do with it, and understand the timings. Positioning is really important. So like, yeah, it's definitely difficult to play. I mean, the way they're currently limiting, the moment there's double San Martin every game in COTS or CBs, if it happens, because they limit some other shit further, yeah, well, I mean, they're gonna limit that one as well. And I guess, I mean, they're currently in a weird position where it could start to spiral out of control, that they're limiting ship after ship after ship. because for some reason, like every single time people find a new, let's say, meta or ship combination that's like played all the time. Didn't happen yet. Like there's one main lineup, for example, for CBs, and then there's also different other viable options because the maps are so different. So like you're always going to have an advantage, but also like a downside on another map because they always play different. Yeah. So yeah, that's it for San Martin. For randoms, I would still advise to mostly play it in the division. Like solo San Martin is really bad. It plays really well with another heavy ship because you can play with your concealment and AP to get into a different angle, and you have a teammate that ensures, let's say, a slight crossfire, which is really good. If you play it solo and your teammates die, you're just going to end up in a scenario where everyone angles against you and you're going to be useless. By the way, in this game you can see how I'm just like, I'm spamming F keys for the heals. Like the situation you want is you want to play it safe until you get your F key. And then you have the opportunity to actually, if you know, or like if you calculate in your head, you have to be good at that though. You calculate in your head that you can run down a ship and you and your team or you yourself will kill it while running at it. If you have a heal ready and an F key ready, you can just run at it. Because you will have like 40, was it 45 or so, K additional healing that doesn't even care that much about citadels or, what's it called? Citadels and penetrations. Because your heal is insanely improved. Like you can get like triple sit at the beginning of the match and you will still be able to heal back to like 40-45k, nearly max HP. It looks weird as well, because no other ship has this kind of improved cockroach heal. I think in testing it was even better, but I mean, thank God they removed that. I mean, in my opinion, the ship is still not like broken in any way. Not even like you see the thing with Napoli, like it was broken or it's kind of broken in competitive because there's like no better alternative for it. It like outplays all the other flank cruisers, so that's really the issue why you have to limit it. Maybe not that hard, but you have to limit it, because why would you ever play a Venezia? Venezia can't even sep and Napoli. With this ship here, I don't think it's going to be the case. Like this ship still allows for different options to play against it. It's just a way to save your, let's say, restricted ship for something else. Well, yeah. In this game, we also get like obviously 2 arms race heals, so I'm going to get like, I don't know, probably 15-20k extra HP from the permanent running heal. But the main thing is always that I don't die. If you play it properly and you go from position where you can proc an F key to another position where you can proc an F key, you will have the opportunity to essentially withstand a lot of fire. This ship, by the way, is incredible if you get late game. Like it's the same with every cruiser that essentially likes to play close, like Des Moines, for example, Salem's, Petros, Moskvas and stuff. If you go late game, these cruisers become massively busted because suddenly there's less crossfire, less, let's say, overmatch from battleships and stuff. This ship here accelerates even further because, as I said, the issue with randoms is that there's too many BBs for this ship specifically. Also, the issue is if you play it solo, it doesn't even matter that you have nearly stealth raider. You're not gonna kill the DD yourself, so you have to rely on teammates again. So as you said, if you played with like a Smaland or a battleship maybe, there's suddenly lots of issues that you remove in the enemy team that would potentially harm your game impact. Because you suddenly have a person with a brain with you. Yeah, but the overmatch is really disgusting because it has 25 sides, nose and ass. It's the same as Wooster. Like the hull isn't exactly the same, it's longer I think, but the armor scheme is the same. You have the 25 and everywhere, and then 30 deck. But I mean, 30mm armor is already shit on tier 10. So now imagine you have 25. Like even Jean Bars, Tirpitz, Bismarck, essentially everything can overmatch you and even Citadel you. Though I think it got a bit of, I haven't looked at the armor scheme that much, but the armor scheme is pretty brain damaged in the sense that the Citadel is really low and it has spaced armor too. So it's actually very unlikely you get completely sit smashed unless you're like purposefully broadside parking for extended periods of time. Like you can even gamer turn and withstand lots of heavy volleys just because they made the Citadel be extremely low. But if you angle, I figured out something like Bourgogne, so it really just shits into you because it just overmatches too many parts. By the way, so here the game, you saw me hop from island to island, play with teammates together, so I'm not the only focus. And now I have the 1v3. So how do you play that? I mean, I guess the only way I win this is if both of these battleships played like brain damaged idiots and don't face hug me. For some reason, you will see that the Iowa is going into the venom smoke on my right. Currently debating coming around the corner slow because I don't know if the Preußen turned out. Like he could have turned out into base and spot me now. Like the Iowa is obviously running into the cap. For some reason, I'm debating now, radar or not. I choose to radar. This Iowa is absolutely clueless. And here, the only reason why I can even win this, why I get such high damage, is like the arms race buff. I have double reload, double damage, triple damage actually. So these chunky volleys and this insane reload is only granted through arms race, and obviously the Iowa not angling properly, also not having his turrets ready and stuff. Like he can definitely 20k me here angled, and then I don't have the HP to fight the Preußen. But yeah, obviously the damage is inflated. It's a problem with the damage numbers, what I said in the Minnow video. what worth it is damage records when you upload the replay and everyone sees its arms race and you already know, like, yeah, cool, you're gonna get a bunch of buffs, enemy's gonna get a bunch of buffs, and it's this one arms race game. It's like, is your damage... I just don't like it. Like, weird to implement a mode that can theoretically grant you double the damage if it's just randomly working out in your favor. By the way, here you can also see the dementia. I have an F key. I have a heal ready. I had a double heal running. I recuperated a lot of HP. This fucking Preußen has a triple reload double damage. This motherfucker reloads in like 12 seconds or less. He actually reloads in about 12 seconds, 13 seconds, maybe now with AR. So like, he still digs me a second asshole. This is like the thing with San Martin. I need a long time to kill him. And this motherfucker has like 10 million reload and over, matches my entire ship. So he just points and clicks. And if RNG would have worked out in a, let's say, less favorable way for me, I would have died here. It's like really the problem in randoms. I can only stress it again. It's in an isolated scenario, it's a really interesting ship, and it's also built for that isolated scenario. Like, for example, isolated cruiser 1v1s. It doesn't matter what cruiser it is, you're going to win that. Because you will always get your F keys chain procced. Like, you will get every single heal off if needed, if it's a 1v1. There's no way, really, that someone kills you unless you eat massive amounts of Citadel dick. Because, like, the F key is just... It's a cockroach, man. It's literally a living cockroach. Unless the battleships one-shot you. And since, yeah, there is 4 or 5 BBs from time to time, you will get one-shot a lot. You will lose too much HP to 2 battleship salvos, and then suddenly you're stuck in this loop where you have to catch up on healing, which means you actually need time to heal and proc F keys. But in order to proc F keys and heal more, you need to shoot again, which then requires you to be in a position where you wouldn't get shot, but you still have shots. So, like, yeah, it's like a spiral of shit. Playing this ship a bit more cautious is also not really a bad advice in my opinion, because as I said, you want to have heal ready and an F key ready, and then you can go and take some risks. If you do it before and you suddenly go low, you get your 1 heal off, but then you have 3 minutes cooldown on the next one, but you're still like half HP or less, and in a very forward or like fucked position, you have to hide, and hiding means you can't get your F key, and then like, yeah, you're just fucked. It happened to me. Like, these situations definitely happen. It's a weird cruiser to play. It's also, as I said, very unrewarding cruiser. Like, you get a good position, you radar someone, your DPM isn't massive, you catch a cruiser flat, your penetration and DPM isn't like crazy, so you do a bunch of damage, but you don't kill him, and then he angles, and then you do 0. Same with a DD. You catch a DD, he turns flat broadside like a Shema, and then you only get overpens and do like 5k in his turn. Then he angles, you maybe get lucky, get another 3-4k hit. Well, that's it. And then he gets out, and he lives, and yeah. So, kind of unrewarding to play, and it's a cruiser that really... It really just does play a lot like a Napoli in that sense in randoms, where you go in and out, in and out, in and out. And at some point you maybe do the funny full YOLO, which is the same thing with Napoli really. Like, you try to poke in, use your smokes and concealment to poke in, out on flanks, go forward, go backward, disengage, whatever, you can do that to medium ranges. Same with this cruiser. And at some point you have like enough HP or smoke ready, or here you have F key and heal ready, and then you just suicide in and bomb and get some damage. like the gameplay really requires you to also play a long duration game. I mean, look, this is 20 minutes. We have arms race buffs, lots of good ones too, and I only have 290. I mean, I will end with 290 because I get like 2 more shots on him. And this is already like some of the highest damage on San Martin. Like, it's very unlikely you get 300k without arms race. Like, it's actually impressive to do that, pull that off. Like, the only way you pull that off is if you get some magical suicide rush with your torpedoes and stuff on battleships or so that ignore you, which is very rare to happen. It can happen. Maybe someone will get like 350k on it. But yeah, it's let's say unlikely. It's not something like a Des Moines or Minnow where you can actually forcefully get 300k games a lot. So this game ends. Sadly I couldn't finish the Shimmer, because if I would have finished the Shimmer, it would have actually been 4k base, which is quite impressive for San Martin. But then again, it's arms race. Oh wait. So yeah, 290. Obviously got cap buffs and lots of the DD and cruiser damage. So I end up having 3.9 base, and yeah, the interesting part is I tanked nearly 170k HP. That is in fact 3 times my actual HP that I spawn with. That's quite the cockroach moment, and in the end I was still on 16k. But yeah, obviously shout out to the battleships that turned flat broadside. Or that I caught. Here you could see that the Sherman, you actually have higher chance of penning because it's so fat. Haaland, not really, only if he slightly angles. He was flat broadside, so I had to hit like 16 shells for 8k. Like, look, Minnow would only need 8 shells for 8k because it would penetrate all this flat broadside shells. Shimmer kind of the same thing. Benham, same thing as well. Like, it's you sometimes get random pens, but in general, like, if it's not a fat destroyer, you don't really do damage to it. So yeah, that's St. Martin. I still don't think it's a fun ship to play. It's interesting for a while. Like, you can get some different kind of flavor because it plays, let's say, completely different to the average cruiser, and especially to the average kite idiot. And the gameplay is something you're intrigued by to figure out how it works. But in the end, because it's not really that rewarding, I still don't really like it. But I understand why it's suddenly becoming viable in certain situations and competitive. So yeah, that's about it with San Martin. Maybe you could take something from it. I'm personally gonna fuck off now. And I will see you in the next video or on Twitch. I don't know. See you guys and have a great week.